and then they have to be ready to go for it. There's no guarantee that you then will win it again. That doesn't happen just like this. You cannot be champion, spend money, and be champion again.
They are the Premier League champions. They won absolutely everything in recent memory, redefined aggressive, heavy metal football, and stood atop the European mountain as the standard bearer for intensity and desire. They created an aura, a mystique around Anfield that suggested defeat was less a possibility and more a cruel cosmic joke played on opponents. And now, Liverpool Football Club has entered the existential horror phase, a period defined by a collective multi-million-pound breakdown that is both bafflingly sudden and savagely entertaining for everyone located outside of Merseyside. The deafening, triumphant roar of the Kop has been replaced by the quiet, mournful sound of a fax machine printing out the latest manager odds.
The German oracle, the man who knew exactly when to leave the party, was Jürgen Klopp, who, with a twinkle of knowing irony and the wisdom of a footballing sage, essentially predicted this entire spectacular meltdown. Not by saying it would happen, but by expressing absolute disbelieving shock that his successor, Arne Slot, was given such a mind-boggling, unprecedented war chest of cash to begin with. Klopp, who spent 9 years meticulously building the club's infrastructure while famously complaining he couldn't spend like rivals, watched Slot immediately break the British transfer record for a player like Alexander Isak and spend an astonishing £446 million in one window, leading him to joke that nobody ever told me that it's possible that we can spend like that. It is the most exquisite irony that the man nobody outside the Netherlands truly knew, who inherited a champion squad and the biggest budget in club history, has now led them to their worst 12-game run since 1953, proving that money can indeed buy happiness, but apparently not a Champions League win over PSV Eindhoven.
I had no clue that this is possible. Nobody ever told me that it's possible that we can spend like that. My last year Liverpool, so we obviously, so the Adidas deal, the new stadium, all these kind of things, yeah, they earn more money, but it was never ever I could have asked for the amount of money. But that's not a problem. That time, it was not there, no problem at all. By the way, it's 450 or whatever million, I don't know the exact numbers, but they earned a lot of money as well. And change always has an impact, and change always needs time. Liverpool this year has to be in the competition, in the decisive moments, and then they have to be ready to go for it. There's no guarantee that you then will win it again. That doesn't happen just like this. You cannot be champion, spend money, and be champion again. The other teams don't sleep. That's how it is. And to become champion, you need luck in moments here and there. That's how it is. Nobody wants to hear that.
Obviously, Arne Slot has said that he would like to be your successor. He said that last night. What do you think of him as a coach and a possible successor to you? And how would you describe the job that he would be taking on?
So I didn't read anything, but Tony told me that Arne said something. So I don't know anything about it. Not involved in the process, just to clarify that. So, club-wise, I mean. I would like a lot about it at first moment, that if he is the one that he wants to take the job, really, and is desperate, but come on, let's go for it, excited, rather. I like the way his team play football. I can say that definitely all the things I hear about him as a guy, good guy. Some people I know him. I don't know him yet, but some people tell me that he's a really good guy, and I like that a lot. So, good coach, good guy. Looking forward for the club if he's the solution or the man. Then I'm more than happy. It's not up to me to judge these things. But
welcome to the vulnerability phase, where Liverpool does not just lose, but gets thumped at home in the Champions League, forcing the entire footballing world to collectively check the calendar and wonder if they've been teleported back to the mid-20th century. The genesis of this current glorious mess is, of course, the result of last night, a scoreline that reads more like a satirical comedy sketch than a modern elite football fixture. Liverpool were not merely beaten. They were comprehensively, humiliatingly and structurally disassembled 4-1 by PSV Eindhoven on the very hallowed turf of Anfield. This is not an acceptable loss that can be brushed off as one of those nights. This is a Champions League horror show that instantly, and rather dramatically, condemned the club to their worst 12-game run since the 1953-54 season. Let that sink in. We are talking about the era of black and white television, the rationing still in effect, and Sir Winston Churchill serving as the UK Prime Minister. That is how long ago Liverpool played football this badly. The sheer, colossal weight of that historical comparison should, in itself, warrant an immediate board meeting. The carnage began almost immediately and was instigated by the most unbelievable source, the captain, Virgil van Dijk, the man who commands £80 million, who is supposed to be the most composed, towering and unflappable defender in world football, inexplicably executed a move that can only be described as a bizarre premeditated volleyball block in the penalty area. He needlessly raised his arm and punched a routine corner clear like he was desperately trying to stop a particularly aggressive high-flying pigeon. It was a disaster class in leadership, self-control, and basic spatial awareness, a moment of profound personal embarrassment that gifted PSV an early penalty and set the utterly catastrophic tone for the entire evening. This was followed by more defensive calamity, with Ibrahima Konate looking equally confused for the third goal. Anfield, the legendary fortress, the place that opposition managers fear to tread, is crumbling faster than a sandcastle in a monsoon, conceding goals with the regularity of a broken Swiss clock. The defenders are looking wide open in transition, standing several yards apart as if respecting a very aggressive social distancing policy and generally appearing as vulnerable as a cartoon character walking across a flimsy log suspended over a canyon. And here is the punchline that really makes the whole world, especially the financial auditors, giggle nervously. Liverpool are collapsing despite having recently spent an unprecedented, staggering £446 million in the summer transfer window. That is nearly £500 million invested in reinforcements that are currently reinforcing absolutely nothing. The return on investment is currently hovering somewhere around shambolic and non-existent. They broke the British transfer record for Alexander Isak, a player who is currently all but absent in crucial moments, and whose form suggests he might have secretly been replaced by a particularly anxious giraffe wearing a Liverpool jersey. The problem is not the lack of talent, it's the profound lack of cohesion, passion, and most importantly, goals. The new expensive midfielders are technically gifted, yes, they pass neatly and move well, but they are lacking the crucial bite, the relentless, bone-jarring intensity that defined the club for the past decade. It's like they bought a Ferrari, painted it red, but keep filling the tank with lukewarm tap water. They dominate possession, they control the territorial statistics, but they lack the finishing, the defense, the desire, basically every single attribute required to win a modern high-stakes football match. Even the legends are failing the vibe check, looking utterly fatigued and defeated. Mohamed Salah, the Egyptian king, the man whose every touch used to promise a goal, is currently a shell of the player who used to tear the Premier League apart. He looks lost, isolated, visibly running on fumes and struggling to exert his usual devastating influence. He is the last man standing on a sinking ship, desperately trying to bail out the water with a teaspoon. Meanwhile, the pressure on the man in the dugout, Arne Slot, is now mounting with the urgency of a high-speed train heading towards a collapsed bridge. The Dutch manager, already inheriting the daunting shadow of his predecessor, is now being judged not on his philosophy, but on a statistical record worse than one achieved during the Truman administration. Slot himself has admitted the mood at Anfield is very bleak and very negative and disappointing, conceding that even when they are losing, their performances have been better. That is the managerial equivalent of saying, yes, we are definitely sinking, but usually we wear nicer, more expensive clothes while doing it. The conversations have stopped being about long-term projects and are now solely focused on who has Xabi Alonso's current unlisted phone number. The situation is so dire that the media is already listing the next manager odds with the depressing regularity of the morning weather forecast.
The tragic state of affairs was perfectly encapsulated by the ultimate Anfield authority, the legendary Steven Gerrard, who noted the most damning evidence of all. Anfield tells a story. The seats are empty with 10 minutes to go. Empty seats at a Champions League game at Anfield. When the third PSV goal, the goal that confirmed this was a humiliation, not merely a defeat, rippled the net, the fans simply left. They walked out en masse, not in loud, furious protest, but in collective, quiet, embarrassed resignation. They abandoned the fortress. That, my friends, is the sound of a club not just crumbling, but being slowly, painfully, and humiliatingly deserted by its faithful army. The crisis is real. The financial damage is done. And the only thing Liverpool is truly chasing right now is the distant, haunting ghost of their own once unquestionable supremacy.